One of the main things that we've been talking about with The Chosen Season 6 is actually the feature-length movie that is coming out in 2027. However, that movie is going to coincide with another massive movie, which is the Mel Gibson Resurrection of Christ, which is supposed to be a huge movie, right? The Passion of the Christ is one of the biggest biblical movies, if not the biggest biblical movie of all time. However, there has been a pretty massive issue with this movie, which is that its main character is not returning for this second movie. And let's talk about why. But real quick, before we get to that, let me tell you that we're retiring one of our merch collections over on the store, snipelifeshop.com. You can go over here and check out our Miracles collection, which has the Water to Wine, Multiply, Magdala, and Communion, both in a shirt or a sweater here, perfect for wintertime. But we're going to be taking these down within the next week. So if you guys want to get these, this is your last chance. You can use code MIRACLE at checkout for 15% off, and that will get you a little bit of a discount there to help you with shipping or whatever else. So if you guys want to get these, this is your last chance to grab them before we get rid of them on the site. Of course, we're going to do more stuff in the future, but this is your last chance to get these. So go ahead and check these out if you want to grab them and get that 15% off with code MIRACLE at checkout. Just wanted to remind you of that before we got into this next section of the video. Let's continue on. Here we go. Let's jump into this article and talk about the Passion of the Christ successor, Resurrection of Christ. And let me make this a little bit smaller so you guys can see. There we go. Here we go. Let's read through this article from Deadline. Passion of the Christ, Jim Caviezel and Monica Bellucci are not returning for Mel Gibson's sequel. If you don't know who Monica Bellucci is, she's the one that plays Mary Magdalene in the original Passion of the Christ. And of course, Jim Caviezel played the original Christ in Passion of the Christ. However, neither of them are returning. Although the Son of God is finally getting his long-awaited sequel, The Resurrection of Christ will not feature the return of Mel Gibson's original cast. Well, why is that? Let's read through. Following their performances as Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene in The Passion of the Christ in 2004, I mean, that's quite a long time ago at this point, right? 2004, over 20 years ago. Deadline can confirm that Jim Caviezel and Monica Bellucci will not reprise their role in the sequel, which is currently casting their replacements in Rome. So we knew that they've been shooting in Rome and that they've been wanting to do this for a while, right? They've been planning to do this whole thing, but apparently the main people who were in the previous movie are not going to be the main people here. So let's talk about why that is. Page 6 previously broke the news, citing scheduling conflicts and the need for digital de-aging to have the actors reprise the roles more than 20 years later. So obviously 21 years is a long time. If you're supposed to, in this picture, for example, be showing Jesus as, as 33, then that makes sense when Jim Caviezel is this age, right? But after this point, obviously Jim Caviezel is much older and they would have to do some digital de-aging, which would cost a lot of money and it might not look very good. So the best thing to do is possibly to get new actors to play those roles, which is what they're doing here. Also, there looks to be some sort of scheduling conflicts for somebody, either one of those two. And so we have that there. In April, Caviezel anticipated returning as Christ in Resurrection. So up until recently, Jim Caviezel really thought that he was still going to be part of this project. So even as early as this year, in April of this year, he still thought that he was part of this project. So he says this in a podcast. He says, "Now I get these bonus years and I had no idea during the original film. At the time, after I was done, it was done." He said basically that he never thought that he was going to be able to play this role again in a Mel Gibson movie because he thought Mel Gibson would never make another one, essentially. Jim Caviezel continues here. He says, "Am I scared? Yes. But if I wasn't, I wouldn't want to work with that actor," talking about himself if he wasn't scared. And then he says, "Of course I am, but that will never go away. But I was worried on the last one," meaning on The Passion. He was worried about how it would go and how he would continue after it, right? Deadline previously reported that Gibson's sequel will release in 2 parts from Lionsgate. In 2027, part 1 debuting on Good Friday. This is the one that's going to come out right when The Chosen is supposed to come out, right on that same weekend, essentially, March 26, 2027. And then part 2 opening 40 days later on Ascension Day. That's Thursday, May 6th, 2027. Now, this is a big old question mark for me. Is Mel Gibson really going to be able to put out 2 movies in 2027? I don't know, bro. I don't know if he'll be able to do that, to be honest with you. That would be pretty impressive, I think, if he was able to do that. Especially without putting a sequel for the last 20 years. I don't know. I would have some questions about that personally. We'll have to see. But yeah. So the plot details for the Resurrection of Christ are under wraps. Gibson's original film, starring Caviezel as Jesus, was a landmark title that up until last year held the record as the highest grossing R-rated film of all time domestically. The film, portraying the last 12 hours of Christ's life, debuted in an opening weekend of $83 million, on its way to taking in $370 million in North American theaters and more than $610 million globally off a $30 million budget total. So this is the same budget that The Chosen has for their film. We'll see how they match up to these numbers, because that's an incredible amount of money. Essentially $1 billion right there. It also garnered 3 Oscar nominations in the categories of makeup, cinematography, and original score. So we'll see how The Chosen matches up to that as well. But quite interesting. Obviously, this movie has been anticipated for a long time. One of the biggest comments, one of the most common comments that I get on this channel is, hey, are you going to be talking about Mel Gibson's Resurrection of Christ? Hey, are you going to be talking about this? And I get that comment all the time because people are interested in what is coming after the Passion of the Christ, and if there's going to be a continuation of that biblical commentary there when it comes to Mel Gibson's biblical movies. So yeah, of course we're going to talk about it if it comes out, when it comes out, how it comes out, and we'll talk about all of that. I'm sure that they will be able to find another actor that fits this role as well. It is sad that it's not going to be Jim Caviezel, as he did such a great job in the original Passion of the Christ. However, I'm sure whoever is picked next will do an adequate job as well. So we'll see how it goes. Who knows? I know a lot of people are randomly saying that Jonathan Roumie should play this part. This is ridiculous to me. He just went through all of that with The Chosen. I do not think he wants to do that again with the Resurrection and everything. I just don't think that is that is something that will happen. So don't worry about that. I think that they're going to find someone else, and Jim Caviezel will be able to be okay with that, hopefully. So we'll see. I'm sure Jim is not 100% happy about that, especially with him talking about it in a previous podcast, saying like, hey, I'm excited to do this. I didn't think I was going to be able to go back to this role, sort of thing. And so, yeah, let me know your thoughts about this overall. Are you sad about this, that Jim's not going to be in that role, or that or that Mary Magdalene won't be reprising her role either? Are you excited about the Mel Gibson stuff? Or are you kind of over it since Passion was so long ago? Do you like the Passion of the Christ? Let me know all these things. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, because I want to gauge where my community is when it comes to these Mel Gibson movies. I've watched Passion of the Christ several times, growing up in church and all this kind of stuff. I've watched it several times, but for me, there are some things that are definitely theologically and biblically kind of just like wrong, just like straight up wrong in it. And so, there's a lot that I would have to talk about when it comes to that overall. Let me know your thoughts as always, and we'll keep you updated on what happens with this movie. If they are filming it, who is in that position of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. We'll update all that kind of stuff later on. So let me know your thoughts. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.